watch. She loves to watch. As the house stays having little girl's heart, she watches Mr. Silverberg, copper clothes in the dark.
Hi, I'm Art Fein. Welcome to Little Lart's Poker Party, retitled Little Lart's Saxophone Party, for this very special show in a nice day in March in 1988 in Santa Monica. We got some really, really great people in, and I'm very happy to have them. First time in, Mr. Garth Hudson. Garth, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here. Now, you guys all know Garth. Garth was in, well, let me get my records out here. Garth is in the band. That's an old record. But Garth, are you guys on hiatus right now?
Good picture then.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everybody looked old then, like now.
We're just getting ready for the big time now.
Are you guys on hiatus right now? I mean, you were performing in '87.
Rehearsal schedule.
Yeah. Are you rehearsing here or in Woodstock? Or?
No, we knocked off for a little while. We'll be going to Australia, I believe, in end of May.
Yeah. Okay, well, Garth is actually known as more as the keyboard guy. He's always kind of in the back, buried behind all the keyboards. If you go over to his house, it kind of looks like you're going to Rick Wakeman's house. There's stacks of keyboards going up to the ceiling everywhere. But he's also the saxophone guy in the band. And what is that little one you play? You guys were in the movie made about the band, of course, was The Last Waltz, about their farewell performance in 1976. And now you come out with that little thing, kind of looks like a bubble pipe. What is that?
Yeah, it could be a bubble pipe. Sometimes it's a curved soprano.
Uh-huh.
Company from Japan started making curved sopranos again.
Curved?
Curved.
Curved sopranos.
Yeah, I would have bought it. They play in tune. That's great. It plays very well. Yanagasawa. You don't mind me mentioning product names.
No, I don't mention giving plugs to people in Japan. That's okay. Now, early on, there was an interesting pairing before you joined the band with Big Pink. You're also with this guy,
Yes.
Ronnie Hawkins. Now,
Yes.
now, how did you hook up with a guy named Mr. Dynamo? Just
Well, I began playing rock and roll when I was a kid,
yeah.
and we heard about Ronnie down at the Brass Rails in London, Ontario.
Uh-huh.
And we had to go down there and stand outside and listen, and or go to dinner, sat upstairs. We were underage. And after a while, Ronnie heard that I played, and he wanted to check me out. So had Robbie and Levon talk to me, and I couldn't cut the kind of stuff they were doing. I mean, I didn't have that kind of chops, you know, for rockabilly.
Uh-huh.
A lot of it's based on Jerry Lee Lewis. I couldn't follow Willard Pop Jones at all. I couldn't follow him. I mean, he broke keys and he played louder than anybody I ever heard. And also Stan Celeste would come and fill in for Willard, and he became more regular. Stan Celeste from Buffalo. And he's very good. He's playing with Levon now, by the way.
No kidding.
Yes.
Original Hawk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, neato. And that, of course, led to you guys eventually moving up to Woodstock, New York in the mid-'60s, and then getting together with Bob Dylan.
Yes. Yeah.
And the rest.
We were together as a group. That's Richard, Levon, Rick, Robbie, myself. 1960, I think it was.
Yeah.
I have to check the records on that.
Well, neat. It's thrilled to have you here. I've been asking you for years, and I'm glad to have you on.
Am I done now?
But one of the reasons I was able to get Garth was because I got these other guys. Now, next to him, we got Lee Allen. Lee, thanks for coming down.
Thanks for inviting me, Art.
Now, Lee's played on every record ever made. Isn't that true? Every rock and roll record since
Oh, I wouldn't say that.
1950, I think.
I wouldn't say that.
Lee's a Denver native. He's a saxophone player of great renown. Most of the Little Richard records, is that safe to say?
Safe to say.
I mean,
His
Long
first
Tall,
records.
yeah, the earliest ones, Long Tall Sally and Tutti Frutti and Keep a Knock and all that stuff. That's you wailing away. Lately, you're still playing with Fats Domino, whose records you played on originally
Right.
in the 50s in New Orleans. And of course, you played with guys like Smiley Lewis, who I can't even imagine.
Well, I was in the studio band,
Yeah, the house band at, what was the place in New Orleans?
Cosmo Batassa.
Cosmo's studio
Yeah.
in New Orleans.
Mhm.
Well, you sound as great as ever now. You've been playing with the Blasters a lot too
Well, thank you.
when they play. That's where I met you the second time. The first time I met you was a New Year's party that my friends and I threw in 1979 when we hired Roy Brown.
Yes, I remember
We
that.
hired Roy Brown to play our New Year's party, which was one of the biggest thrills of my life. And not only that, but in the bargain, he brings down Lee Allen and Pee Wee Creighton. I said, this can't be true. How great can things get, you know? I mean, it was a terrific night. And
Tom Waits was there that night, too.
yeah, it was a cool night.
It was a lot of fun.
So, I love your stuff. Wait, let's play. You had your own hit single in '57. Let me give a taste of that on Jim Dawson's cassette player. This is Walking with Mr. Well, this might sound, let me cut it out here, might sound familiar to a lot of our listeners because it's a song that lives on and is played quite a bit on oldie stations. And of course, you play it during the Blaster set too, don't you, sometimes?
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, Lee's contribution to the Blasters shows has always been extraordinary. I mean, people really go crazy when Lee comes out, and for good reason. He's the greatest.
Well, thank you.
So thanks for coming back.
Thanks for inviting me.
Next to him, we got Mr. Big Jay McNeely, one of my favorite people in the world. You don't know that, I'm telling you now. Now, like I knew about Garth, maybe I knew about Garth with the band, and I knew about Lee, but I never heard of Big Jay in let's say the early '70s, because I was too young to have caught him the first time around.
Oh.
But well, he's just a couple years older than me. But particularly when I was going to thrift stores and buying old records, one day I was on my way to a radio show that I was doing, and I picked up a copy of this record on Federal called 3D. And I said, sounds good. I want to hear this. And I heard it. And I said, what is this? I've never heard anything like it. I want to play a little of that too. Jim Dawson brought a tape of it down for us. While I'm setting it up, what year would 3D have been?
Oh, but maybe about 51 or 52, 53. Yeah.
53. Okay, well, Garth, do you know this song by any chance?
I don't know.
I don't know. Okay,
Sure.
I'm going to play the end of it. When I heard this, I just said, I don't know what this is. Man, I get tired listening to that.
That's great.
That's exhausting. That's so great. What's the story on that? There's only one sax player there, right?
Two.
Two. You straighten off with another guy.
My brother,
Your brother? What's his name?
Bob McNeely.
Wow. I mean, I just used to, I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what it was. I don't know, I was into rock and roll, and I knew about it up to about 55 and forward. Then I started to find out there was guys like you doing it earlier, you know. When did you start playing sax professionally?
Well, I started a long time ago, in school.
Yeah.
And Sonny Chris and I used to play, because, I started out playing jazz. Sonny Chris and Hampton Halls and all the guys. Around 46, we graduated from high school. We was playing. Then I had my first hit record in 49, Deacon's Hop. That was on
Deacon's
Savoy.
Hop.
Yeah. And then came on up. Then we started doing some things. I left Savoy and went to Federal, and that's when I did all these things, like 3D, The Goof, Rock Candy, and a lot of wild things on Federal.
Well, you know, I'm trying to understand that period. I like rock and roll. I like jump, honking sax like this. But of course, there was the jazz thing too that you were into. Now, I wondered, you were part of a movement called honkers that you guys would get down on your back and go crazy at these shows, which I'll just read about. I wish I could have seen them. How did it fit in the musicians' world? Because what you were doing seems simple. Bomp, 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 bomp. You know, it's over and over again, and it's the greatest. But it's just there. I mean, was it frowned upon, like by the jazz people?
Well, yeah, we could say so, because I had a lot of people used to write about me, One Note J. And I studied a while, and after I studied, then I studied like real legit, So then I decided to just play some soul, and that's when I came up to Deacon's Hop, and they was paying me good money to record, so that's all I recorded, And so a lot of musicians frowned down because they said I was playing one note, but it's the way you play the one note.
Yeah,
And so we had to drive in the beat, and like I was drawing all the kids in Los Angeles. In fact, we out with Ray Anthony one time, and then we broke up Johnny Ray show. He had cried, he was on the show. But everything was very vivid, And in fact, we started all this like on the West Coast. That's, Hal Singer had Cornbread, and then Paul Williams had Huckleberry. I had Deacon's Hop, and Lee Allen had it. So it was a monstrous thing. And then they just taken what we had, put guitars on it, and brought Elvis and other guys in it, and called it rock and roll. But we was the one that started with the wild.
You sure were. So what about this honking style, the wildness? I mean, now I read in one of those liner notes to one of those Savoy albums about guys. I forget who it was about. Said that he played, maybe it was the Howard Theater in D.C., and the guy beneath the stage had the microphone, and he was pulling it down from beneath the stage. So while he's blowing, the sax kept going into the ground, and people could just kind of visualize that he blew the thing into the ground. And that kind of theatrics are just so great. I mean, were you pioneering you still do it now. You're still a young man. You're laying on your back and going crazy during these shows and walking on the bar. It's a great thing to see. I saw you at the Lingerie a little while ago, and it was terrific. Way back then, were you pioneering in that?
Yeah, we were pioneering real early, and people didn't really understand what was happening, First time I laid on the floor was in Clarksville, Tennessee, I was playing, nobody wasn't grooving, so I got on my knees, and I said, well, there's nothing left to lay on the floor. So I laid on the floor, and I did it, and I got to Texas. Wow, it was great. So then I got to Los Angeles, and that was it. Then a few artists started copying, and so then I had my horn painted with fluorescent paint, and it turned out all right, changed colors. In fact, we just did the movie for BBC, for London, and it's at the end of the show, all you see is saxophone playing.
That's terrific. Let me show you the new album. It's out this week. AZ Bootin', Big Jay McNeely. This will be available all over the country pretty soon. I know you just did it with your new band, and it's produced by you and Jim Dawson. We don't have a record in here right now. There's nothing there, so we can't play it. But being pressed up, and by the time you see this, it'll be available. You're also having stuff reissued, I know, a lot overseas. The Swedish label that Jonas Bernholm runs has been putting out your stuff, and I've been really enjoying those reissues too.
Yeah. The best of Big J, yeah. I really enjoy it. At least I'm getting some money now from overseas. You know?
Uh-huh.
But this album here is very unique because we have harmonica. And when I was on tour in Europe with a group called the Rockers, called the Stars of Boogie Woogie, it was out of Vienna, Austria. And the first time I heard the Zydeco music, you know, with Christian in it.
Yeah.
So, because they had a big video.
First time you heard Zydeco was from Austrians.
Yeah, well, yeah, and like I saw it on the tape, you know, then they were playing it too. When we got back, we did this thing, and this kid played harmonica, and it gives that Zydeco sound. Personally, I think it swings a little more because I think the harmonica swings more than the accordion. And so it features a lot of harmonica and saxophone.
Wow.
It's a good combination. I think you like it.
Well, you've been touring in Europe the last few years. There's been a Big J renaissance overseas, right?
Yeah, we had a ball. Went through 7 countries. Played the Palladium in London. And the show used to travel just through Austria. It had nothing but about 8 piano players. But this time they decided to go all through the continent.
Huh.
And they had, I was on it, Katie Webster was on it, and Little Littlefield made
Little Willie Littlefield? He's around?
Yeah, he lives in here. Then I had Axel Swingenberry out of German piano player. And Mojo Band, young guys out of Austria. They could play.
Great. You know, Lee, you going overseas a lot too. You've been over with Fats quite a bit.
Well, yes, I was over 4 times last year. And I've been over once this year with Linda Hopkins, and I'm going over again with Fats in April. Then we go back again in September.
You heard from Richard lately?
No, I haven't. I've heard about him. But I know he's around.
Yeah. I ran into you at some hotel in Las Vegas. I was walking around at the Hilton, and I see Lee Allen walking by. I said, "That's right, Fats Domino's playing." I forgot that you'd be on. Of course, you'd be playing with him. You've been doing that pretty much forever, right? I mean, has that been steady from the 50s with Fats, or was there a period that was off?
Well, off and on.
Yeah.
Off and on, and as he takes off the rest, well, I try to keep busy. I mean,
you're associated like this with the New Orleans sound, but you're personally from Denver.
right.
How did you get down there? How did you get involved?
Well, I went to college down in New Orleans, and as I was working down there, I became quite familiar with the sound and the feelings of New Orleans.
Well,
I was 17 when I went to New Orleans.
Well, what about the same thing I asked Jay? If you were a serious guy studying music, you probably were influenced by jazz and stuff. But and this stuff is rock and roll. I mean, it's rhythm and blues. It's simpler than the studious people were doing.
Yes, I was influenced by the jazz because I had some nice favorites.
Yeah.
But as you come through the years, if you want to work, you do other things. You want to eat.
Right.
So I come to try to make myself a little flexible and hope that the people enjoy it.
Well, we do. We continue to enjoy you all the time.
Thank you.
Also, Garth, in the band, the saxophone just kind of in the band when you guys play all around the world. The saxophone's not the major part of your contribution, right? I mean, you're really more on keyboards than a sax guy. Were you when you were in any of the previous rock and roll bands? Were you primarily a sax player?
Yeah. Yeah, a little group we put together, called the Capers, in London, Ontario.
The Capers?
Yeah, it's 1958.
What label is this on? We're record collectors here.
Well, we did go to Detroit.
Yeah.
And got a record out called, it was then Paul London and the Capers. And Paul just looked me up a couple years ago after all those years. He's a designer for Honda cars. And we played around London and then went to Detroit.
What was the name of the record?
So when I first began playing with the Capers, I said, I don't want to play piano, I'll play saxophone. But I don't want to play piano. So that was it.
So that was the start.
Yeah.
But you weren't laying on your back.
No, I just stood there and
Roll with punches.
tried to get that old Martin in tune. I had a Martin first. Traded a C Melody for a Martin. Later on a Buffet, and then a King, and finally Selmer. You don't mind me mentioning product names?
They're not going to give us any anyway.
No, it's hard these days.
You had a bunch of saxes that were melted in the fire, didn't you?
Yes.
I mean, you had a place up in the Malibu Canyon that burned down about
Yeah.
7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Was that useful stuff, or was it a historical collection? Or?
No, a lot of the stuff was in the little studio we had in near Zuma Beach there.
Yeah.
So the smaller things I saved. But I lost a great baritone, a low A, Selmer, low A, and lost the mouthpieces. A Mark VI tenor, but the mouthpiece was on it, and I couldn't find them, you know. Finally began digging out these stainless steel mouthpieces. And I cleaned up, and it still plays good. I got that in 1959, I think, in Detroit, in a little shop right next to the Torch Bar on East Jefferson. Old fella repaired horns. Met a baritone player for Ray Charles in there having his horn done over one time. So I still have that, and I still go back to it. I can't find another mouthpiece.
Also, by the way, the Paul London and the Capers record, what's it called?
Rosie Lee.
Oh, Rosie Lee, of course.
I can't remember the other side. Then we came out with another one called Big Bad Twist.
Oh, it's rarely off my turntable.
And the other side of that was Sugar Baby.
Yeah, okay, well, I'm going to keep my eyes peeled for those.
Well, I'll get them for you if you want.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
How about a Hakavia Screw Loose?
Screw Loose?
Yeah, that was Ronnie Hawkins. That's a rare item.
Okay. When did you start, Lee? When did you start doing the New Orleans session stuff? How did you make that transition? Because you were a sax player, going to school.
Well, when recording really started down in New Orleans, because it was in the 40s, around 47.
Uh-huh.
When the first recording started.
And you just walked in and said, try me?
No, I was in on the ground floor when it started.
Mm-hmm.
Because nobody was recording down there.
You were doing it in 47?
Yeah.
You were doing that when Fats was doing the Fat Man?
Oh, well, I mean, I recorded before he did that.
Wow.
See, there was Capitol and Savoy and all of them were coming down there with Paul Gayton, Dave Bartholomew and them.
That right.
This was before Fats.
I see.
Yeah, Fats came in around 48, 49.
Man. Were you doing, Jay, were you doing all your recording in L.A.?
Yeah, I was at, almost recording in L.A., some of it in Cincinnati.
Oh, for King Federal?
Yeah, King Federal. But most of it was done in Los Angeles.
So-
Some in, I did the thing for BJ there in Chicago.
Mm-hmm. Well, in some of the first prime years, you're in your prime years now too, but the first prime years of the early 50s with the Federal and Savoy and all this stuff going on, these two, you were on I'm assuming you were on like package tours or going around the country?
Well, let's see. I really didn't start traveling until about 50, because my first hit record, I didn't go back east. That was in 49.
Uh-huh.
And then I signed up with Shaw, but nothing happened, so I went with GAC. And then I started playing all the clubs, Wildwood, New Jersey.
So you were playing clubs as a solo,
Yeah,
as
solo.
opposed to maybe one of these big R&B reviews.
Well, I went on one like with Little Richard when they had top 10, you know, they used to book the top 10 acts of the country. And I was on it with Little Richard, Joe Turner was on it, Faye Adams was on it, Shake a Hand, the Boom Globes, the Five Keys.
They were called the big shows.
Yeah, those big shows. They take the top 10 acts of the country and start in New Orleans. And they go about 31 nighters.
Uh-huh.
So I happen to know a guy at Gale Agency, so he put me on the show.
Now you have, like I said, there's a big J resurgence going on. I mean, I think I'm safe to say that. How long has this been going on? I mean, the real, I guess it started in Europe, right?
Yeah, I had a chance to go over to Europe, and we did a thing for, Ace Records, and then what happened, a fellow writes for the Times was over there. Brian, one of them, what's his name? What's his name? guy who wrote the article in the Time.
Don Snowden?
Oh, Bob Hilburn.
Yeah, Bob Helper. He happened to be in Europe covering the blues, and I happened to be there, and so he gave me a full page in the calendar. And then we did a movie for BBC. Did the history on black music. They went to Jamaica and Africa and everything. So they came here and did a blues. Laura Folsom was in it, Charles Brown, Joe Liggins, and myself, and Big Mama Thornton before she died, and Laurie Glenn. And so from then I started going to New York, and then the things just started happening again.
I'm really glad they have. I mean, when I saw you a few months ago at the Club Lingerie, it was terrific. It fulfilled my expectations. Can we expect or hope to see you around the LA area? I know you say you're going to Europe pretty soon. Any forthcoming LA dates that we can look forward to right now?
Yeah, well, I'm working out in Anaheim right now at Salvatore's. That's on 500 North Brookhurst, doing the wild thing. I got some new things going. You have to come out and hear it, man. I got that XPX 90 now. It's a monster, man. I'm doing some things now. Sound like a big band, you know. So you have to come out here. And then with the wireless. See, that night I didn't have the wireless. I think the night you was there. Every time I played lingerie, they never get my wireless working. Yeah. So I was just blowing that old soul, you know, but I have a wireless now that I can go 1,500 feet. You know, you can still hear me just blasting.
What's the name of the place you're playing right now, pretty much?
That's a Salvatore restaurant. Yeah, I've just been out there about a month, you know.
And this is on Brookhurst. What?
Yeah, 500 North Brookhurst in Anaheim, California.
Oh, Anaheim. Well, I'll get down there. Jim, when am I going down there?
Probably this weekend.
This weekend? Okay. Well, I hope we'll see you all out there. Anybody know how much time we got left? 1 minute. Wow, that's good. Look at the uniformity. Well, I want to thank my guests for coming down. It's you know, this show is pretty much just me making my record collection come to life, and I enjoy the heck out of it. Did I let's see. Here's a Lee Allen reissue that came out of. Was that here or that in New Orleans?
They reissued in London.
In London, yeah, it's got.
And hopefully I'll have a new one this year.
Yep. Got to show this
That's
one.
in the plan.
We don't have any new band records to show right now. You guys are rehearsing?
Oh, we have a video or two, one that we did at Tipitina's, and then we had one done in Japan,
Really?
Tokyo.
So these are commercially available right now?
No,
But they
no.
will.
They're, we're just holding back,
All right.
playing it cool.
Good idea. Make them wait, that's what I
Yes,
think.
yes.
All right. Well, fellas, it was a gas. Thanks for coming down. Hope to see you all many times more. And
Thanks for inviting.
Thank you for dropping by.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Pleasure to be with the guys.
Well, it's more than fun. Just want to meet some people and have some fun. Meet some people and have some fun. As a man turns the phone, call the police. Just little if you need some something to eat. That's the kind of girl that makes me smile. She's the kind of girl I want to be mine. She loves to watch. She sometimes makes herself known. She loves to watch.